Glancing at my own Facebook profile, I see that I currently have 112 friends. That seems like quite a lot to me, but it's below what Facebook say is the average of 140. And I can't help noticing that almost all my Facebook friends have more friends than I do. Several have 400 or 500, 3 of them have over 1,000. But can someone have 1,000 friends? 1,000 real friends? Professor Robin Dunbar at Oxford University has been pioneering a new approach to friendship. He has studied the evolution and social behaviour of monkeys and apes, including us humans, and his most recent book is called How Many Friends Does One Person Need? His answer has been so influential that the number is now named after him.
Dunbar's number is the limit on the number of true relationships and friendships you can have. So these are meaningful friendships. It's about 150, and it's really determined by the size of the human brain.
And what is the evolutionary theory behind Dunbar's number?
One of the big puzzles in the course of the evolution of the brain, in mammals in particular, is the fact that primates, let's say monkeys and apes, have exceptionally large brains for body size. And it had been proposed probably about 20 years ago, I guess now, that the reason primates have big brains is that they live in very complex social systems. And indeed, it turns out to be the case. And the issue here is these very deeply bonded relationships, which are relationships of kind of reciprocity and obligation and trust in many ways, rather than relationships of the moment. In other words, something you would think of in our terms as a real friendship. These are very, very demanding cognitively, and that's why we need big brains.
Both as a human being and as a historian, I'm resistant to the idea that the brain can really constrain things very much. I like to think, perhaps naively, that we human beings can have whatever number of friends we want. We can behave as we like. We can flout gender and social and emotional stereotypes. Am I deluded in thinking that I can be free from my brain?
Yes. I mean, it depends how you define friendship. So if you want to define it in the Facebook sense, which is just press a button and I friend you, then you can have any number. But in reality, that's not how our social world is organised. There really does seem to be a cognitive limit, and that limit varies from individuals to individuals. So where you lie in that range turns out to depend on the size, basically, of your forebrain, the bit of the brain above the eyes.
Well, now that's really worrying. So I have 112 Facebook friends, so that puts me at the low end. So I'd never even thought about this at this moment. This means I've got a relatively small brain, is what you're saying.
I knew that one was coming. I mean, at the end of the day, the question is, are your 112 Facebook friends your entire social world? Because there are probably people that aren't on Facebook that you would actually consider...
I consider that well beyond my entire social world.
Okay.
I made a big effort to make friends with people.
I think we are in trouble here.
Of course, our friendships today are shaped by the long evolutionary past of our brains, but also by our social and cultural history. Robin Dunbar told me that his favourite appearance of Dunbar's number in the historical record is as the average population size of English villages. In the Domesday Book, he says, the average village size was about 150, and in the 18th century, 700 years later, the figure had hardly changed. So I may be less popular than the average Facebook user, but I like the idea that my own social network is about the size of a slightly small 18th century village. That sounds just about manageable. Scientific work like Robin Dunbar's, along with the dramatic new possibilities that the internet has provided for conducting our friendships, are two of the reasons why historians have recently started to get interested in friends and friendship. The subject is so new that so far there's only one book attempting a comprehensive history of friendship in the West. Its editor is Professor Barbara Kane of the University of Sydney.
I think that it's a fashionable subject at the moment because of changing patterns in how we live. In the West in particular, people marry later or enter into domestic and sexual relationships later or not at all, live in different kinds of ways. Far more people live alone. People live further away from their families. I think in all of those kinds of circumstances, people have become more and more aware that it's friends and groups of friends that make the sort of fundamental networks in which they live. And I think there's also been, probably over the 20th century really, a much stronger interest in the underlying emotional issues that are involved in friendship, what kinds of emotional ties there are,